There is a molecule that spent decades stopping people from bleeding to death on operating tables. Surgeons used it to shut down cascades. Then, by accident, someone noticed what it did to skin. Their patients were coming back with fading dark spots, not because of any cream applied, because a hemostatic drug, designed for blood, had intercepted the exact same signaling pathway that causes hyperpigmentation. That molecule is tranexamic acid, and understanding why it works forces you to abandon everything you thought you knew about how brightening products are supposed to function. This is not a bleaching story. Every time ultraviolet radiation strikes the skin, keratinocytes convert a dormant enzyme precursor called plasminogen into its active form. That active form is plasmin, and plasmin is precisely where the hyperpigmentation cascade starts. Plasmin triggers arachidonic acid release. Arachidonic acid generates prostaglandins, inflammatory messengers that cross the cellular boundary and deliver a single, unambiguous command to melanocytes: produce more pigment, immediately. The order has been placed. Melanin is not the problem. Melanin is the employee executing the order. The problem is the order, the inflammatory signal traveling from a panicking keratinocyte to an obedient melanocyte. That signal is the target. Most brightening ingredients attack downstream. They inhibit the enzyme that builds melanin. They block pigment transfer to the surface. All of them arrive too late. Tranexamic acid goes further upstream than any of them. Because TXA was never designed for skin. It was engineered to block plasmin cascades in blood, and the plasmin cascade in keratinocytes is structurally identical. The same key, a completely different lock, same result. This is the core engineering problem. Tranexamic acid is a highly polar, water-soluble molecule. The stratum corneum is a lipid-rich barrier built to block exactly that kind of molecule. The incompatibility is structural. SkinCeuticals' discoloration defense answers this with a decision that looks like a limitation but is a weapon: zero lipids. A fully aqueous vehicle saturated with glycols that temporarily distend the stratum corneum and force entry. HEPS, a pH buffering agent, holds discoloration defense at physiological pH, preserving niacinamide stability while maintaining barrier plasticity. No AHA aggression, no pH crash. Every decision in this formula serves one objective: penetration. Kojic acid intercepts tyrosinase synthesis. Niacinamide blocks melanosome transfer at active concentrations. 3 pathways, 3 interceptors, 1 vehicle stripped of every non-essential element. Clinical minimalism is not cheap. It is deliberately surgical. Glycol saturation has a sensory cost. Formulas feel heavy, requiring a moisturizer. The financial cost is steep, which forces a question this industry has never stopped asking: can you achieve this cheaper? The Inkey List tranexamic acid treatment attempts this with a fundamentally different chassis: liquid crystal emulsification, not a cheaper copy of the same formula, an entirely different architectural philosophy, and the answer surprises. Cetero olivate and sorbitan olivate form lamellar structures mirroring stratum corneum lipid bilayers. The molecule is not forced in, invited through an architecture designed to mimic the very barrier it needs to cross. Lecithin adds liposomal encapsulation. Lactobacillus ferment suppresses inflammation that brightening treatment can itself trigger. The Inkey List tranexamic acid treatment manages its own side effects. At this price point, that depth is not expected. The honest limitation: enhanced TXA bioavailability through this liquid crystal system has not been independently validated in peer-reviewed literature. Theoretically coherent, not yet clinically confirmed. That distinction must be stated and then held. Then there is the third position. Natrium tranexamic topical acid 5% leads with the number itself. Maximum cosmetic dose, maximum signal. And one question the number cannot answer: does more concentration mean more interception? If this is the kind of analysis you came for, subscribe now. Every week, Cosmetoscope tears apart the formula behind the claim. The science is the story. The label is just the beginning. Here is the fact that changes everything you have just seen. Every delivery system analyzed, every synergy discussed, every product opened. None of it erases a single dark spot already in your skin. Not one. Tranexamic acid does not bleach. It does not dissolve pigment. It intercepts only the cellular order to produce future melanin. The damage already present is entirely outside its jurisdiction. Not a limitation, the mechanism. The consumer who abandons tranexamic acid after 2 weeks of invisible results is not failing. The product is not failing. The mechanism is operating on a timeline the packaging was never honest enough to explain. That timeline is set by skin biology, not formula. Existing pigmented cells shed through natural turnover. New cells arrive unpigmented because the production order was never issued. The skin corrects itself in silence. This is why single-active tranexamic acid formulas chronically underdeliver. TXA seals the future. It cannot excavate the past. That excavation requires the 2 interceptor classes it was always designed to work alongside, not replace. Kojic acid at tier 2, chelating the copper ions tyrosinase requires to synthesize melanin. No copper, no catalysis, no new pigment assembled, regardless of how many upstream activation signals have already been sent. Niacinamide at tier 3, disrupting melanosome transfer from melanocytes to keratinocytes at active concentrations. Pigment built but never delivered never reaches the surface. 3 tiers, 3 interceptors, the only complete architecture without a prescription. TXA holds one advantage no formulation chart captures. Unlike L-ascorbic acid, oxidizing within weeks, or kojic acid, browning on air exposure, tranexamic acid remains chemically stable across heat, light, and time. Formulation verdict. SkinCeuticals Discoloration Defense is a precision instrument, oil-free, surgically minimalist, maximum penetration through glycol architecture. Its weakness is sensory. Its strength, it delivers exactly what it claims, without negotiation, without degradation. The Inkey List Tranexamic Acid treatment is genuine architectural ambition at an accessible price. The biomimetic chassis is theoretically sophisticated. The gap? Enhanced TXA delivery through this system remains unconfirmed by independent peer review. Natrium tranexamic topical acid 5% is sensory engineering at its boldest. Isododecane dissolves glycol tackiness and evaporates on contact. The 5% ceiling is clinically undefined. Impressive architecture built around an unverified concentration claim. The use case map. Maximum penetration for active inflammatory pigmentation, SkinCeuticals Discoloration Defense. Biomimetic barrier repair on a budget. The Inkey List Tranexamic Acid treatment. Fast-absorbing high-dose coverage for oily skin. Natrium tranexamic topical acid 5%. None is universally correct. The right formula matches the right skin condition, barrier state, and, critically, the right expectation. Expectation is the one variable no Inkey List can formulate around or control. For fresh post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, acne scars still forming, inflammation still active, deploy tranexamic acid immediately, before the melanocyte receives the command. Prevention requires arriving before the signal. Once it fires, the window is closed. For existing spots plus long-term prevention, the complete 3-tier stack. TXA seals new production. Kojic acid or licorice dismantles synthesis. Niacinamide blocks delivery. All three tiers simultaneously, not layering for complexity, layering for coverage. For reactive or sensitive skin with elevated baseline inflammation, delivery architecture matters more than dose. A biomimetic chassis that calms while it corrects reduces triggering the very inflammatory cascade TX was recruited to interrupt. The final verdict on tranexamic acid is simple. It does not react to pigmentation. It does not remove it. It cancels the authorization for it to exist before the process begins at the source. Brighteners treat a symptom. Tranexamic acid defunds the cause, dismantling the cellular budget for melanin production before a single pigment granule can be commissioned. The result you never see is the result that lasts. Most people will never understand why their brightening serum stopped working after 2 weeks. They will buy another one. You now know exactly why and what to look for. That knowledge does not expire. You came asking which serum erases spots fastest. The real question was always, at what point in the cascade do you intervene? Now you know, and you know where the earliest intervention point is. The signal was never sent. The melanocyte never received the order. The spot was never commissioned. Not a side effect of tranexamic acid. The entire point. The same a surgeon discovered by accident decades ago.